Who will make the most impact as a first-time starting quarterback this year? Spencer Rattler. Which leads me to this discussion. So Lincoln Riley did his Zoom presser yesterday, in which he divulged, among other things, that they had a cluster of COVID-19 positive cases. And he did not want to say which players were included in that cluster, but he did acknowledge they all play on a unit that has to play together, which would lead many of us to believe that that's the offensive line. And even if it ain't the offensive line, if it's the defensive line, if it's the secondary, that's the kind of thing you're going to run into all year long. What are you going to do when that happens? Matter of fact, the opener between NC State and Va Tech got pushed back from September 12th to September 26th because they've had a spate of positive COVID tests at North Carolina State, and they want more time to allow their kids to recover. You're also asking all of these kids to stay out of harm's way and to stay out of trouble at a time when the rest of the student body is still on campus, specifically at the University of Oklahoma. We're talking about over 20,000 people that are normally on campus. Cut that in half. That's still 10,000 people walking around. And even if you're just taking mostly online classes, that does not stop you from going outside your dorm room or your house. That also is another aspect of this that people aren't really talking about. They talk about these college football players like they all stay in the same dorm. They don't. As soon as you can move off campus, you do. So that means you run into people specifically in this state that ain't always taking the best care of themselves. Like, I still don't see mask everywhere I go in the state of Oklahoma. It's like 40% mask, right? Of which I am one. And I don't necessarily like going outside all the time like that, but like I went outside yesterday to vote. Most people weren't wearing masks. So it's easier for these kids to test positive if they're around other people. And if it's your offensive line, not only is that a pivotal part of your football team, that's also what I would think is Oklahoma's deepest position group. Creed Humphrey is a first-round draft pick, preseason All-American, right? That's what we think. Adrian Ely is one of their best tackles. Eric Swinson started games at left tackle. Both Marquise Hayes and Tyrese Robinson could be for first or second day draft picks, probably second, third day dudes. But at Oklahoma, you really need that experience on that offensive line precisely because you have a first-year starting quarterback in Spencer Rattler, we think. Now, Riley would not say who the starting quarterback is going to be for Oklahoma. To which I said, I too am not naming starting quarterback this year, Lincoln. Or at least today. Though if it's not Spencer Rattler, it's going to shock the hell out of everybody. I mean, Spencer Rattler's got the second best Heisman odds in all the country. He threw 11 passes last year. But if you're going to have these kinds of occurrences happen, and you can't trust your football players to stay safe or to not test positive, you're not going to be able to field a football team. And if you're not able to field the football team, that's going to severely dent your chances of winning championships. Like, what if Oklahoma only plays 8 out of 10 games but goes undefeated in those 8 games? And another team goes 9-1, another team goes 9-1. Are you going to keep Oklahoma out? Probably. Right? Probably. That's what you're contending with. You really need to be better about that. James Baldwin says, I think Marvin Mims going to be that dude. It's possible. You know, you say state high school records in Texas, national receiving record for yards in a season, like 2,600. It's possible. Wouldn't doubt it. Let's see. These dudes forgetting you got a button to use. Yeah, Jacob, they are. They usually do. They usually do, and they usually are. Let's see. What else we got in here? Do you think Hudson Card is the starter next year for Texas? Does he stay when Quinn Ewers gets to Texas? Somebody at the University of Texas is going to transfer. As a matter of fact, let me do a read, and then I'll get into that. Let's see. Does your business need to rank higher in the search engines? Do you want everything your company touches to turn to gold? If you answered yes to either of those questions, you and your business need to get your act together at the Pimpin' Ain't Easy Marketing Conference. Attend keynote speeches made by marketing gurus like Bishop Don Juan and a pimp named Slickback. Participate in workshops and learn more about your target market and how you can get their attention in our high-tech world from such renowned professionals like Craig's girlfriend Joy's sister-in-law's baby cousin Tracy. This event is not free. Neither are your meals. So if you're a broke booty Buster Brown, this might not be your get down. Only real money hustlers need apply at the Pimp It Ain't Easy marketingconference.com. So to the question of whether or not Texas is going to actually field Hudson Card starting quarterback in 2021, I answer Casey Thompson is still there. Casey Thompson was asked to come out of the transfer portal as well. Mike Yurcich is now there. So you got Casey Thompson behind Sam Ehlinger. Roschon Johnson, who moved to running back but was recruited as a quarterback. You also have Hudson Card with Quentin Jackson in that same 2020 class. And Quinn Ewers in 2022. I think if it's not Casey Thompson next year, it probably is Hudson Card. I also think that Quentin Jackson might surprise some people, but I doubt it, right? I think that dude's going to be moved to another position sooner rather than later. So I think Casey Thompson in 2021, and I think that it's his job at least for that year, and then we'll see. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the NBA because I've been fascinated by the NBA because, my God, Jamal Murray, not that dude. 42 points, 17 of 26 shooting, 4 of 8 from 3, perfect from the foul line. We talk about 360s in midair to finish layups at a time when everybody was telling me how good Luka Doncic was. And then Luka didn't do much of anything against the Clippers. And when in a game in which the Clippers dropped 154 points on the Dallas Mavericks skull, both Kawhi and Paul George had 30 plus. Paul George, who had been in a slump, Paul George, who had been called Pandemic P rather than Playoff P, 35 points. In addition to that, I'm looking around at Donovan Mitchell going, does anybody understand that man is on his Bruce Leroy right now? As in, when you reach that upper level, your mind, body, and soul must be one. Yeah. All while nobody wants to have any conversation about Jacob Blake outside of the NBA. But the way that the NBA has chosen to think about this, I find to be wild, interesting, and also inspiring. Because we're still talking about whether or not the Celtics and the Raptors choose to play their playoff game today. Because they are so angry about how things are handled in Kenosha. I'm picking the Rockets to beat the Thunder tonight, Steven. That's what I'm doing. I'm picking the Rockets. Because I don't trust this OKC team. I see the ceiling for the Rockets is much higher than the ceiling for the Thunder. And if there's no Russ, that ceiling even goes up further. Right? You get a good game out of Jeff Green. You put OKC to bed. Let's see. What else we got in here? I asked about LSU because you and a lot of people are only focusing on what LSU has lost and not everybody else when they have lost more at key positions than LSU. No, man, they have one of the worst returning productions of anybody in college football. Like, show me the teams that lost more than LSU. It's the nature of the beast, man. You had 14 dudes drafted. 14. You're not going to be good. It's okay. I don't understand what's so difficult to grasp about that. Plus, Kerry Vincent opted out. So you don't have your nickel. Like, it's not hard. Well, Dallas forced a game 7. No, Dallas ain't going to force no game 7. Ain't no way Dallas forces a game 7. You must be crazy. Nah, man. Put them out of their misery. Let's see. Recruits will get to view the Big 12 more. I got to that one. Yes, LSU is 127th in returning production. John Kelly in here getting that in. My goodness. Miles is a fourth-year vet. Miles was supposed to be the starting quarterback when Joe Burrow grad transferred in 2018. Miles Brennan needs to show a ton before I trust him. And he needs to show a ton with a new offensive line, with a new primary running back. You got Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall coming back. Then you got parts. Now, Eric Gilbert, we know about. Eric Gilbert's going to be great. But they might force Derek Stingley to play both ways this year rather than the next year because they don't know what they got in that wide receiver room right now. Expectations for the Dallas Cowboys this year and CD winning Rookie of the Year. Super Bowl. And yes, because when I look at my Dallas Cowboys, I see Ha Clinton Dix. I see Chidobe Awuzie. I see Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Antoine Woods, Neville Gallimore, Everson Griffin, and DeMarcus Lawrence. That's just the defense. Like, if Mike McCarthy's doing his job and Jerry Jones stays out of his way, it's a Super Bowl, baby. Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, Michael Gallup over here, Amari Cooper over there, CD in the slot. You ought to be destroying people. You got Lyle Collins still out there just to be like, you got Tyron Smith. You got Joe Looney. You better win me a Super Bowl. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Get it how you live. Y'all LSU fans need to sit down. I've heard a lot of y'all saying you're going to go 10-0. Yes, sit down. My goodness. LSU stands. What are y'all doing? All right. So we do the live show. I think 3 days a week is what it's going to be. I haven't decided whether or not it's going to be at noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm thinking Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Might be 2 days a week. I haven't settled, man. I know that I like noon as a time. 3 o'clock had also been another time. I'm not doing live streams at night. I used to. I'm not doing it anymore. I want my nights to be able to watch, sports. So noon feels like a good time. Maybe Monday and Wednesday, right? So then the next day you can download the podcast at the RJ Young Show podcast. Please, if you do, leave a rating, leave a review. Let me know that you listened to it. And if you want to be able to do this on your own time and you can't always show up for noon, the podcast is where you can find this. Again, the RJ Young Show podcast. You can download it wherever it is you get your podcast. Probably see you guys on Thursday because this is not a normal week for me. Also got some news that I can tell you about on Friday. So be tuned for that. All right. I believe that is it for me. Let's do a read on the way out. Get used to this. Getting married this year, organizing a corporate function that needs all the trimmings. Mike Jones Event Planning is your premier event coordinating and concierge firm. Mike Jones Event Planning coordinates and caters events of all sizes, specializes in graduation parties, theme weddings, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, and Kwanzaa. Mike Jones Event Planning wants to make sure that your event goes off without a hitch. And that means chopped and screwed planning ahead now. So put them H-Town hussies on Front Street. Remember, back then, they didn't want you. Now you hot. They all on you. To make all your dreams come true, call Mike Jones Event Planning at 281-330-8004. All right, that's it for me. Doses.